Hey everybody, Jang here from jangbricks.com, and in this video I'm going to be taking a little bit of a deep dive into the all-new 2014 Bloks Halo figures, like these two that you see here on the left, showing you their features and also how they compare to the previous figures and the similar Call of Duty line. The first thing I want to cover is size, and you can start to see a little bit of information about that right here, but let's get to a very direct and close comparison. In the middle is the new guy, the 2014 figure. On the left is one of the original style figures from before 2014. And on the right is the closest figure I had from the Call of Duty line. Here you can see that the new and previous figures are very comparable in height overall, and the Call of Duty one is just a little bit taller. Noticeably so though. The heads are pretty much interchangeable between these, but you'll notice that there are no shared parts between these two except maybe the hands. I think the hands are the same mold. I might be mistaken on that. I think they are. Nothing else has been preserved. Even the head is different on the new one, even though it's supposed to be the exact same figure essentially, and these heads are interchangeable. You'll notice the new one is actually smaller, to give it a more realistic human style of proportions. I believe they went back to the original design, but then scaled it down and resculpted it a bit because there are much finer, crisper, deeper details. Even the lower leg and foot molds are new because they've changed the style of the kneecap area. You see that's much larger and has more overhang. Here's a pair of Halo 4 Scout Spartans. They should be looking identical. This is the old, this is the new. You can see there's just a little bit more height with the Spartans overall. Bulk has been moved around a bit. Previously, the shoulders just stuck out so far with the joint parts that were really thin, so the arms felt or looked rather detached. Now the shoulder pads are moved down a bit. It's actually a little bit more like the real ones, maybe a little bit lower than it ought to be, but you do have the sense of the undersuit that armor is applied to. The shoulder pad detail really shows you just how much of a difference you get in the mold styles between these two. It's a much more realistic design, much more accurate design with the new one. The placement of the armor pieces near the tops of the thighs and also close to the shoulders, around the waist, that's a little bit more debatable. To me, the new one looks far more bare and less like it's completely armored. This is a good pair to look at for articulation as well. The shoulder and elbow joints are very different on the new ones, and that allows you to reach across the chest much more effectively. This is really as close as I could get the hands to come on the old one. Really tried to rotate that in there. It's just not going any farther, whereas the new one does it very comfortably and easily. There's another example of the differences between just those two joints. You get so much that you can do with the new shoulders, and when you run out of articulation, you just rotate around. Same thing goes for the elbows, because these are able to just rotate around. So if I want to reverse what I did, put the hands on the hip, there you go. Check out the difference in weapon shouldering. Same weapon, supposed to be the same armor. Look how far away the sight is on the old one. I really tried to get it in close. You are able to get some nice looking poses from certain angles with the old ones, but if you don't want to rely on angles and camera tricks, it's a lot nicer to be able to just bend things in and use the articulation of the newer figures, which are far more effective. You can see, you can almost get the sight all the way into the eye. Kneeling shows up the difference quite well too, and there you can see that you're actually more limited in the lower extremities as well. You're able to get a much more believable kneeling pose from the lower half of the body with the newer figure, even though it doesn't have new styles of joints. It's just done better. There is one place articulation is actually reduced with the new figures, and that's in the neck. So you can still rotate the head around a pretty realistic amount. You could rotate it more with the old ones, not an anatomically correct kind of thing, but you could just get more expressiveness. You could look up to the side, you could look down to the side, you can also tilt the head for a little bit different, interesting, just posed expression. Can't really do that so much with these new Spartans now because there's just so much bulk around the base, the chin line, the jaw line of the helmet, and also all this bulk of the removable torso armor. As a result, interestingly enough, when holding sniper rifles, the old ones were actually able to look okay. They were able to kind of lean in towards the sights, which made them just not look as far away from the weapon. Here's a pair of human figures with no helmets. Again, old on the left, new on the right. Now that guy on the right has slightly awkward nostrils. I think those kind of stick out, but you can see just how the proportions are so much different now. Previously the heads were really, really large. They've just shrunken the heads down quite a bit, which is going to look awkward if you're used to looking at these all the time, but this is closer to actual human proportions. And just for comparison, there's a figure from the Call of Duty line with no helmet on the head. And then there's the ability to remove armor from the new Spartans. You can take off, swap, and replace at will the shoulder pads, the sides of the armor on the legs, the main torso cage, and a hip area insert. Heads come off complete. There's no head underneath there, but if you want to, you can make it look like your Spartan is a human underneath by just popping on a regular head. If you want to change out the legs and the forearms, those actually have to be removed entirely. Here's a full 360 look at a Spartan figure with the generic underbody of the whole thing with the armor removed. The other pieces are mostly going to change in color, but also the molds. You get slightly different legs and of course very different helmets from Spartan to Spartan. Across the 5 members of this Venom Fire team alone, I counted 3 different upper leg armors, 3 different lower leg molds, 3 different lower arm molds, and everything else is different. The helmets, the shoulder pads, and the main torso armor, of course. That's just in a relatively cheap troop builder pack. These 2 named Spartans share upper leg armor, lower legs, and hip inserts, nothing else. These 3 humans introduce still different lower legs, lower arms, and hip inserts. Incidentally, the body armor goes on differently with these regular human figures. They actually go on from the top. They slip on like vests, similar to the way that's done on the Call of Duty figures. Just goes over the top. So that's my look at a lot of the new things with the new 2014 Halo figures. Please post up a comment with your thoughts about these new ones, what you think about them, whether you prefer the new ones to the old ones, whether there are some things that you prefer on the old ones and some that you prefer on the new, what you think about the proportions, the articulation, the armor swap, anything that's on your mind about these new figures. Be sure to also check out individual set reviews that I've already done, and stay tuned for more to come. Thanks for watching. I'll be talking to you again soon.